The North American Numbering Plan is a telephone numbering plan that encompasses 25 distinct regions in 20 countries, primarily in North America, including the Caribbean and the U.S. territories. Not all North American countries participate in the NANP. The NANP was originally devised in the 1940s by AT&amp for the Bell system and independent telephone operators in North America, to unify the diverse local numbering plans that had been established in the preceding decades. After AT&amp administration of the numbering plan until the breakup of the Bell system, administration was delegated to the North American Numbering Plan Administration, a service that has been procured from the private sector by the Federal Communications Commission in the United States. Each participating country forms a regulatory authority that has plenary control over local numbering resources. The FCC also serves as the U.S. regulator. Canadian numbering decisions are made by the Canadian Numbering Administration Consortium. The NANP divides the territories of its members into numbering plan areas which are encoded numerically with a 3-digit telephone number prefix, commonly called the area code. Each telephone is assigned a 7-digit telephone number unique only within its respective plan area. The telephone number consists of a 3-digit central office code and a 4-digit station number. The combination of an area code and the telephone number serves as a destination routing address in the public switched telephone network. For international call routing, the NANP has been assigned the International Calling Code 1 by the International Telecommunications Union. The North American Numbering Plan conforms with ITU Recommendation E-164, which establishes an international numbering framework. History. From its beginnings in 1876 and throughout the first part of the 20th century, the Bell system grew from essentially local or regional telephone systems. These systems expanded by growing the subscriber bases, as well as increasing the service areas by implementing additional local exchanges that were interconnected with tie trunks. It was the responsibility of each local administration to design telephone numbering plans that accommodated the local requirements and growth. As a result, the Bell system as a whole developed into an unorganized system of many differing local numbering systems. The diversity impeded the efficient operation and interconnection of exchanges into a nationwide system for long-distance telephone communication. By the 1940s, the Bell system set out to unify the various numbering plans in existence and developed the North American Numbering Plan as a unified, systematic approach to efficient long-distance service that eventually did not require the involvement of switchboard operators. The new numbering plan was officially accepted in October 1947, dividing most of North America into 86 numbering plan areas. The area codes were first used by long-distance operators to establish long-distance calls between toll offices. The first customer dial direct call using area codes was made on November 10, 1951, from Englewood, New Jersey, to Alameda, California. Direct distance dialing was subsequently introduced across the country, and by the early 1960s most areas of the Bell system had been converted, and it was commonplace in cities and most larger towns. In the following decades, the system grew to include the United States and its territories, Canada, Bermuda, and 17 nations of the Caribbean. By 1967, 129 area codes had been assigned. At the request of the British Colonial Office, the numbering plan was first expanded to Bermuda and the British West Indies because of the historic Telecommunications Administration through Canada as parts of the British British Empire, and their continued associations with Canada, especially during the years of the telegraph and the all-red line system. Not all North American countries participate in NANP, including Mexico, the Central American countries and some Caribbean countries that are not part of the system. The only independent Spanish-speaking state in the plan is the Dominican Republic. Mexican participation was planned, but implementation stopped after 2 area codes had been assigned and Mexico opted for an international numbering format, using country code 52. The area codes in use were withdrawn in 1991 by the NANP. Area code 905, formerly for Mexico City, was reassigned to a split of area code 416 in the Greater Toronto Area. Area code 706, formerly for Northwest Mexico, was reassigned to northern Georgia, surrounding the Atlanta region, which retained 404, and area code 903, which also served a small portion of northern Mexico, was reassigned to northeastern Texas when it split from area code 214. Dutch-speaking Sint Maarten joined the NANP in September 2011. St. Pierre and Miquelon and Greenland, both North American possessions of European Union nations, use independent country codes that are distinct from those of the respective home countries, France and Denmark. Administration. The NANP is administered by the North American Numbering Plan Administration. Today, this function is overseen by the Federal Communications Commission, which assumed the responsibility upon the breakup of the Bell system. The FCC solicits private sector contracts from the role of the administrator. Initially, the service was provided by a division of Lockheed Martin. In 1997, the contract was awarded to NewStar Inc., which was spun off from Lockheed for this purpose. In 2012, the contract was renewed until 2017. Numbering Plan. The vision and goal of the architects of the North American Numbering Plan was a system by which telephone subscribers in the United States and Canada could themselves dial and establish a telephone call to any other subscriber without the assistance of switchboard operators. While this required an expansion of most existing local numbering plans, many of which required only 4 or 5 digits to be dialed, or even fewer in small communities, the plan was designed to enable local telephone companies to make as few changes as possible in the systems. Most subscribers should not have to dial a long, full national telephone number to make a local telephone call. Numbering plan areas and central offices. The new numbering plan divided the North American continent into regional service areas, called numbering plan areas, primarily based on the jurisdictional boundaries of U.S. states and Canadian provinces. Each NPA was identified by a 3-digit code number. The numbering plan areas were created in accordance with principles that were deemed to maximize customer understanding and minimize the dialing effort, while reducing plant cost. The existing telephone exchanges and central offices became the local exchange points in the nationwide system, and each was assigned a number of 3 digits, which was unique in the numbering plan area, but of similar form to all others. These codes served as destination routing codes for use by operators and subscribers to reach any central office through the switching network. The most populous states required division into multiple numbering plan areas, as each NPA was limited to 540 unique central office codes. For example, New York State was initially divided into 5 areas, the most of any state, followed by Illinois, Ohio, Pennsylvania and Texas with 4 NPAs each. These divisions attempted to avoid cutting across heavy toll traffic routes, so that most toll traffic remained within an area, and outgoing traffic in one area would not be tributary to toll offices in an adjacent area. Traditionally, each central office could serve up to 10,000 subscriber numbers, resulting in a 4-digit line as station number. Thus, the new numbering plan identified each telephone in the system with the combination of the area code, the central office code, and a line number, resulting in a closed telephone numbering plan with a 10-digit national telephone number for each telephone. The leading part of this address was the area code, followed by the 7-digit subscriber number consisting of 3 digits from the central office and 4 digits for the station. The intent was that subscribers should not have to dial an area code when making a local call or a call within the plan area, resulting in 7-digit dialing. Area codes were only required in 10-digit dialing when placing foreign area calls to subscribers in another state or numbering plan area. Initial numbering system. States that were divided into multiple areas were assigned area codes with the 1 in the middle, the second position, while areas that covered an entire state or province were numbered with the digit 0 as the middle digit. In order to distinguish 7-digit dialing from 10-digit dialing, central office codes were restricted to not having a 0 or 1 in the middle position. This was already common practice, because the system of using the initial letters of central office names did not assign letters to digits 1 and 0. Furthermore, area codes and central office codes could not start with 0 or 1, because 0 was used for operator assistance, and a leading single pulse, i.e. the digit 1, was automatically ignored by most switching equipment of the time. Additionally, the last 2 digits of an area code could not be the same, so that the assignments N0 and N11 were reserved for special purposes, as some central offices had been using them already for special services. The area codes N10 were reserved similarly, and most were used for the teletypewriter exchange service. The central office code was chosen such that it could be represented by the first 2 letters of the central office name according to a digit-to-letter mapping that was printed on the face of a rotary dial, by grouping a set of letters with the digits 2 through 9. Such letter translations, designed by W. G. Blauvelt in 1917, had been used in the Bell system in large metropolitan areas since the late 1910s. The network reorganization eventually resulted in a 2-letter 5-digit representation of telephone numbers for every exchange in North America. The new network design, completed in 1947, provided for 152 area codes, each with the capacity to serve 540 central offices. Originally, only 86 area codes were assigned. New Jersey received the first area code in the new system, area code 201. The second area code, 202, was assigned to the District of Columbia. The allocation of area codes was readjusted as early as 1948 to account for inadequacies in some metropolitan areas. For example, Indiana area code 317 was split to provide a larger number pool in the Indiana suburbs of Chicago. This method of division of the continent into numbering plan areas had the result that a few of the most populous cities had area codes that took the shortest time to dial on rotary telephones. New York City was 212, Los Angeles 213, Chicago 312, Detroit 313, and Philadelphia 215. Modern plan. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, the NANP implemented calling procedures that required all long-distance calls within an area code to be prefixed with 1 in an effort to make it possible to assign central office prefixes with 0 or 1 in the middle position. As it had nearly run out of area codes using the existing assignment methods, it allowed the assignment of area codes of the form N10. such as 210 in the San Antonio, Texas area and 410 in eastern Maryland. Therefore, someone calling from San Jose, California to Los Angeles before the change would have dialed 213-555-0123 and after the change 1-213-555-0123, which permitted the use of 213 as an exchange prefix in the San Jose area. The NANP number format may be summarized in the notation NPNXXXXXX. For example, 234-235-5678 is valid. 234-911-5678 is invalid, because the central office code must not be in the form N11. 314-159-2653 is invalid, because the office code must begin with 2 to 9. 1-23234-5678 is invalid, because NPA cannot begin with 0 or 1. 281-234-5678 is valid. The country calling code for the NANP is +1. In international format, an NANP number should be listed thus: +1 30155501000. The trunk prefix code for direct dialed long distance in the NANP is also 1. Each 3-digit area code may contain up to 7,919,900 unique phone numbers. NXX may begin only with the digits, providing a base of 8 in million numbers. However, the last 2 digits of NXX cannot both be 1, to avoid confusion with the N11 codes. Despite the widespread usage of NXX 555 for fictional telephone numbers, see 555 today, the only such numbers specifically reserved for fictional use are 555-0100 through 555-0199, with the remaining 555 numbers released for actual assignment as information numbers. In individual geographic area codes, several other NXX prefixes are generally not assigned. The home area code, adjacent domestic area codes and overlays, area codes reserved for future relief nearby, industry testing codes and special service codes. Various office codes in certain plan areas are deliberately not issued. For example, numbers Chapter 212,718 XXXX, where 212 and 718 are both New York City area codes, are typically avoided to prevent confusion between an area code and a similarly numbered local exchange in the same region. 958 XXXX and 959 XXXX are usually test numbers. Inserting 0 and 1 as the first digit of an area code, a 7-digit local number is invalid, as is a 9 as the middle digit of an area code. These trunk prefixes are reserved for North American numbering plan expansion. Lists of exchanges in an individual area code all list various prefixes as deliberately not issued. Expansion. Canada and the United States have experienced rapid growth in the number of area codes, particularly between 1990 and 2005. There are two main reasons for this. First, there is the increasing demand for telephone services. The second and more important reason is the telecom regulation of local telephone service in the United States beginning in the early to mid-1990s. At the time, the Federal Communications Commission began allowing telecommunication companies to compete with the incumbent local exchange carrier. However, because of the original design of the numbering plan and telephone switching network that assumed only a single provider, number allocations had to be made in 10,000 number blocks. Thus, whenever a new local service provider entered a given market, it would be allocated 10,000 numbers by default. even if the provider obtained only a few customers. As more companies requested numbering allocations, many area codes were faced with the problem of exhausting the number supply. In telecom jargon, such an area is in jeopardy. Many of the new telecom ventures were not successful, while the number of area codes increased rapidly. This did not always translate to a much larger number of telephone subscribers, as large blocks of numbers remained unassigned because of the 10,000 number block allocation methodology. When these telecom ventures were merged or terminated, the blocks transferred to the successors remained unused. No regulatory mechanism existed to reclaim and reassign these underutilized blocks. In general, area codes are added by two methods: splits and overlays. Splits were implemented by dividing a plan area into two or more regions, one of which retained the existing area code and the other areas receiving a new code. In an overlay, multiple codes are assigned to the same geographical area, obviating the need for any renumbering of existing services. Subtle variations of these techniques have been used as well, such as dedicated overlays, in which the new code is reserved for a particular type of service, such as cellular phones and pages, and concentrated overlays, in which a part of the area retained a single code while the rest of the region received an overlay code. The only service-specific overlay in the NANP was area code 917 when it was first installed. Such service-specific area code assignments were later prohibited by the Federal Communications Commission. Most area codes of the Form N10, originally reserved for AT&amp's teletypewriter exchange service, were transferred to Western Union in 1969 and were freed up for other use in 1981 after conversion to Telex, whose service was complete. The last of these, plus 1610, was assigned to Canada and liberated in 1992. These new area codes were used for telephone area code splits in the late 1980s and early 1990s, as all other area codes under the original plan had been consumed, after the remaining valid area codes were used up by expansion. In 1995, the rapid increase in the need for more area codes forced NANP to allow the digits 2 through 8 to be used as a middle digit in new area code assignments, with 9 being reserved as a last resort for potential future expansion. At the same time, local exchanges were allowed to use 1 or 0 as a middle digit. The first area codes without a 1 or 0 as the middle digit were area code 334 in Alabama and area code 360 in Washington, which both began service on January 15, 1995. This was quickly followed by area code 520 serving Arizona on March 19, 1995. Codes ending in double digits are reserved as easily recognizable codes, to be used for special purposes such as toll-free numbers, personal 500 numbers, Canadian non-geographic area code 600, carrier-specific 700 numbers, and high-toll 900 numbers, rather than for geographic areas. Nevada was denied 777 for this reason. It received 775 instead when most of Nevada split from 702, which continues to serve the Las Vegas metropolitan area. Area code splits and overlays. By 1995, many cities in the United States and Canada had more than one area code, either through splitting the city into different areas or having more than one code for the same area. For example, in Manhattan, subscribers' numbers had the NPA code 212, but 2 additional codes, first 917, then 640 1996 were also introduced. This means that the area code must be dialed, even for local calls. In other areas, 10-digit or 11-digit dialing is now required for all local calls. The transition to 10-digit dialing typically starts with a permissive dialing phase in which both 7-digit and 10-digit dialing is optional. During this period, the transition is heavily publicized. After a period of several months, the mandatory dialing phase is introduced, in which 7-digit dialing no longer works. Atlanta was the first U.S. city to require mandatory 10-digit dialing throughout the metropolitan area, roughly coinciding with the 1996 Summer Olympics held there. Atlanta was used as the test case not only because of its size but also because it enjoyed the world's largest fiber optic network at the time, and it was home to Bell South, then the Southeastern Regional Bell Operating Company. 7-digit dialing NXXXXXX, 10-digit dialing NPANXXXXXX, 11-digit dialing 1NPANXXXXXX. Expansion issues. Depending on the techniques used for area code expansion, the effect on telephone users varies. In areas in which overlays were used, this generally avoids the need for converting telephone numbers, so existing directories, business records, letterheads, business cards, advertising, and speed dialing settings can retain the same phone numbers, while the overlay is used for new number allocations. The primary impact on telephone users is the necessity of remembering and dialing 10 or 11-digit numbers when only 7-digit dialing was previously permissible. Splitting instead of overlaying generally avoids the requirement for mandatory area code dialing, but at the expense of having to convert a region to the new code. In addition to the requirements of updating records and directories to accommodate the new numbers, for efficient conversion this requires a period of permissive dialing in which the new and old codes are both allowed to work. Also, many splittings involved significant technical issues, especially when the area splittings occurred over boundaries other than phone network divisions. As an extreme example of an area code splitting gone somewhat awry, in 1998 area code 612, which had covered the Minneapolis-St. Paul Twin Cities, was split to create area code 651 for St. Paul and the Eastern Metropolitan Area. The Minnesota Public Utilities Commission mandated that the new boundary exactly follow municipal boundaries, and that all subscribers keep the 7-digit numbers. These two goals were directly at odds with the reason for the split, and there were more than 40 exchanges whose territory straddled the new boundary. The result was prefixes duplicated in both area codes, which counteracted much of the benefit of the splitting, with only 200 of 700 prefixes in area 612 moving entirely to area 651. As a result, in less than 2 years area code 612 again exhausted its supply of phone numbers, and it underwent another three-way split in 2000, creating the new area codes 763 and 952. Again, the split followed political boundaries rather than rate center boundaries, resulting in additional split prefixes. A few numbers moved from 612 to 651 and then to 763 in less than 2 years. Decrease in expansion rate. Recognizing that the proliferation of area codes was largely due to the Telecom Regulation Act and the assignment of numbers in blocks of 10,000, the FCC instructed NANP, by then administered by Newstar, to alleviate the numbering shortage. As a result, number pooling was piloted in 2001 as a system for allocating local numbers to carriers in blocks of 1,000 rather than 10,000. Because of the then design of the switched telephone network, this was a considerable technical obstacle. Number pooling was implemented with another technical obstacle: local number portability. The program has been implemented in much of the United States by state regulators. A limited number of cities have also implemented rate center * consolidation. Fewer rate centers resulted in more efficient use of numbers, as carriers would reserve blocks of 1,000 to 10,000 numbers in each of multiple rate centers in the same area, even if they had relatively few clients in the area. Together with aggressive reclamation of unused number blocks from telecom providers, number pooling has reduced the need for additional area codes, so that many previously designated area splits and overlays have been postponed indefinitely. There is no number pooling in Canada. Number allocation remains highly inefficient, as even the tiniest village is a rate center when every CLEC is assigned blocks of 10,000 numbers. In every place it offers new local service. As a result, dialing 7 digits even in remote locations like James Bay is more likely to produce an intercept message than an actual voice connection. New area codes outside the United States and Canada. Before 1995, all NANP countries and territories outside the 50 United States, the District of Columbia, and Canada shared the area code 809. This included Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Each has since been assigned one or more distinct numbering plan areas. Code is used only by the Dominican Republic, the United States-Pacific Territories of the Northern Mariana Islands and Guam joined the NANP in 1997, and American Samoa became an NANP member in October 2004. The Dutch possession of Sint Maarten was originally scheduled to join the NANP on May 31, 2010, but the changeover was postponed to September 30, 2011. Number size expansion. The NANP exhaust analysis estimates that the existing numbering system is sufficient until 2044, based on the assumption that a maximum of 667 NPAs continue to be available and that on the average 4,400 central office codes are needed per year. Various plans are discussed for expanding the numbering plan to provide relief after exhaustion. One plan being considered adds digit 1 or 0 either to the beginning or to the end of the area code at the beginning of the 7-digit subscriber number. This would require 11-digit dialing even for local calls between any two NANP numbers. In another proposal, existing codes would be changed to X9XX, e.g. San Francisco's 415 would become 4,915. Other proposals include reallocating blocks of numbers assigned to smaller long-distance carriers or unused reserved services.